Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's economics lesson. My name is Mr. Berry. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Good day again, grade 12. Our knowledge area for today, it will be macroeconomics and economic pursuit. That is in preparation for our paper 1 that will be written on the 12th of November in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. By the end of this lesson, the learners should be able to answer the November examination paper 1. We are going to use previous question papers in order to revise the content that you find in your macroeconomics and the economic pursuit. Just to remind you, our assessment plan for this year, it looks like this. You have two papers, which is paper 1 and paper 2. For paper 1, you are writing out of 150. The duration of the paper is 2 hours. You are writing on macroeconomics and the economic pursuits. You are having 8 subtotal topics in total, which is 4 from the macroeconomics, and you are having the other 4 from the economic pursuits. On your macroeconomics, you need to master the circular flow, the business cycle, your public sector, and the foreign exchange market. On your economic pursuit, you need to know your protectionism and free trade, your economic growth and development, the regional development, and your economic and social indicators. We've spoken about you specializing. You are doing economics, you understand what is to specialize. It means between the two main topics, if you are struggling or you cannot master both macro and economic pursuit, you can specialize to know that you have one main topic where you are going to answer the essay from that main topic. You are going to answer on section B, you are going to prioritize questions from that section. For example, if you are good at macroeconomics, you know when you go to your exam, you have question 1, which is compulsory. It includes both macro and economic pursuit. Then you have question 2, which is only the macroeconomics. And then you have question 4, which is both macro and economic pursuits. Right, grade 12, just as a reminder, our assessment plan for 2024, it looks like this. You have your paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 is out of 150 marks, same as paper 2. You are writing for a duration of 2 hours. On paper 1, you have 2 main topics, which is your macroeconomic and the economic pursuits. In macroeconomics, you have 4 units that you need to master, which is your circular flow, business cycle, public sector, and foreign exchange market. Then on your economic pursuits, you have your protectionism and free trade, you have economic growth and development, the regional development, and then the last one is your economic and social indicators. So in total, you have 8 subtopics that you must master for your paper 1. So for both main topics, you can plan when you go to your examination. You can have a plan before you even go to the examination. If you are good in macroeconomics, it means your plan will look like this. When you go to exam, you are going to answer question 1, which is the mixture of both macro and economic pursuits, which is your multiple choice matching of columns and terminology for 30 marks, and this one is compulsory for all the learners to respond to it. Then you have question 2. This is only macroeconomics out of 40 marks. Then you have question 4, which include both macro and economic pursuit. It's 20 marks for each main topic. Then for section C, you have question 5. This question 5 comes from macroeconomics. So your plan, if you have mastered the macroeconomics, when I say you have mastered the macroeconomics, it means you have used your examination guideline, your textbooks, and previous question paper to respond to the macroeconomic question, meaning any question that comes your way on the macroeconomics, you have mastered that. When you go to question 5, which is your essay question, you know all the 6 essays that are identified in the macroeconomics, and also in general, you understand all these 4 units, meaning anything that can be asked around this, you are able to master. What does this mean? It means from what I've written here, question 1, 2, 4, 5, if you are only focusing in macroeconomics, you are not looking at economic pursuits, you can score up to 115 marks of 150. Right, so 40 marks is your question 2, 40 marks is question 5. That makes 80 marks, plus the 20 that you get from question 4, which is 100, plus the 15 from this state. Remember, this state of question 1, it includes 15 from the macro and 15 from the economic pursuit. So when you add this, it gives you 115, only focusing on the macroeconomics. But remember, you're not just going to get that 115. You need to work for that. You need to master your macroeconomics. If you find the economic pursuit easy, then it means instead of answering question 2, you are going to answer question 3 on section B. Instead of answering question 5, you are going to answer question 6. It also means if you are mastering this, you need to know all the 7 essays in the economic pursuit. If you remember very well, we have 7 essays in the economic pursuit and we have 6 essays in the macroeconomics. So for you to be able to answer or to plan prior to your exam, you need to do what? Follow the examination guideline. Understand what is needed from you to master this exam, right? And then always use your previous question papers as a way to test yourself if you understand the content. Right, our examination tip, remember there are easy marks to score in economics. There are those easy marks to score. You find them in section A, 1.1 and 1.2. 1.1 is your multiple choice. And the tip here is to eliminate the wrong answers. So you are given A to D as options. 2 of them are definitely incorrect. If you understand that those 2 does not match with the statement that is given, then you are left with 2. One of them will be the most correct. After answering your section A 1.1, if you check, you'll have 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. But I always say that this trick only works for a person who's sure about their responses. So if you are not sure about your responses, if you find yourself having 3 A's, and you are not sure which option was difficult for you, then you leave it like that, because you are going to change the answer that is correct. But then if you had only one question where you are not sure about, then you may look at this rule that we are always having 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. This rule we're talking about our senior national certificate examination. Maybe you do have a question paper that does not have the 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. We only talk about this when we talk about your national senior certificate question papers. Then you have matching of the columns. You start at column B to column A. That will save you time. Then on section B, 2.1.1, 3.1.1, 4.1.1, you are always asked to list or to name. This is just remembering information. For example, list 2 injections. You just need to remember information. List, name 2 floors in a circular floor. You need to know that we have real floor, money floor. So that is easy question. And then 2.2.1 to 2.3.1 or 3.2.1 or 4.2.1. This comes from what? All these 3 questions come from your data. So you are given a data. The first 3 questions, you need to score those marks are given to you. The first one, they will say give or name something from the extract or from the graph. Then it's an easy mark because you don't even have to think. And then the other one will say name any other. Then again, it's an easy mark. And then the third one, on all your data response, it will say describe. And then in economics, we are not explaining grade 12. So you do not have to remember the exact explanation from the textbook. So when they say to you, describe balance of payment, If you do not remember the exact definition from the textbook, then you need to know what is recorded in the BOP, right? So you need to know that we are recording transaction, international transaction, the buying and selling from other countries. You are not putting it like in the textbook where they are telling you that it's a systematic record of all international transactions. So you do not have to put it exactly as it is, right? You are describing. So when you describe something, you can describe how you understand that term. Another easy mark that you can get is your 2.4. I know it's an 8-mark question. However, 2.4, 3.4, and 4.4, they are easy to get because this is a question that does not require you to think. So our higher order questions in economics are those questions that requires you to think. Mostly you see them on 0.5, 2.5, 2.2.5, 2.3.5. Where they are asking you why, how, evaluate, give the effects of, examine, then you know you are talking about the higher order question. However, with 2.4, even if it is the 8-mark question, you'll be asked to discuss. For example, discuss government as a participant in a circular flow. Differentiate between money flow and real flow. Calculate, you are given information to calculate the multiplier, for example, and then explain with the aid of calculation, or draw discuss multiplier with the aid of a graph. It means you're going to discuss what is multiplier and then you draw the multiplier graph. So it's something that you can remember from the classroom. Does not really require you to think. Right. Also, when you are preparing for your exams, go through your subject content following the examination guidelines. Use mind maps. I prefer if you use a 32-page, a new 32-page where you are going to start and prepare for your exam. Right? You write paper 1, you write revision. Then it's a clean slate. Everything that is there, you make sure that you understand. So you write things that you understand, you summarize, you put it in mind maps. Remember, you can't write all your notes in 32 pages. However, now, remember, if you are doing what? You are revising, you are not studying. You are just revising the information that you know. You can write all your essays, shorten them if you have to, only for that 26 marks. Remember, the body is 26. You write your introduction, the body, the conclusion, done. That can take a page or a page and a half, right? Then the other thing is go through the past examination papers, get used to answering those questions, mark yourself, have the marking guideline as well, so that you can refer to where you are not sure. Can even ask the teacher where you are not sure. When you find the questions that are difficult, your higher order question, this is a strategy. Highlight the key pointers. Structure your responses. Write in full sentences. Go to your question, highlight key pointers. For example, here, how can South Africa reduce imports in order to correct BOP? What? Reduce imports. To do what? Correct BOP. What is happening with the BOP? There's deficit. So you have 3 key pointers. These 3 key pointers, you know, whatever you're saying, you must tell us how to reduce import. What is the purpose of reducing import? Are you reducing it to increase the economy? No, you are reducing it so that you can correct the BOP. The BOP has a deficit. It means that the import are more than export. So you need to reduce that import because it's more than export. What can you do? How can the South African government or yes, the government, what can the South African government do to reduce this? Because it's the government that is more in charge when it comes to regulations in South Africa. Using tariffs, it's you structuring your answers now. You mentioning tariffs, types of tariffs that you have. You may discuss them. They can charge ad valorem, specific. You go to import control. You go to quotas. So you are having pointers before you even write in full sentence. That's how you attack those questions that you think are difficult. Right, we're going to go straight to our easy questions that you can spot. We say we have easy questions in economics. Section A, 1.1. You definitely find your easy questions there. So we're going to do this like this. You take out your book and then you respond to the questions 1.1.1 until the last one. Then we look at the marking guideline. I'll give you about 10 minutes for 1.1 only. We are not moving to 1.2. Remember, in the examination, you are given 20 minutes for you to respond to 1.1 until 1.3. Right, your time will begin now, grade 12. Then we look at the marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at the questions that we have. Number 1.1.1, a country that produces a product at a lower opportunity cost than the other countries has. You have an absolute, you have these economies of scale. You know this, it means that when you produce, you're spending more. You have economies of scale. This is wrong. So we have eliminated two answers that don't make sense for this question, right? So these two don't make sense. You are left with absolute and comparative advantage. So when you look at opportunity cost, we're talking of the comparative advantage. This becomes your answer for this question. The inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment is best shown by which curve, right? So we have different curves there. So we're talking about a relationship between inflation and unemployment, and it's an inverse relationship. So what comes to your mind? You're thinking of this graph where there's an inverse relationship. This is PC. So the graph is your Phillips curve. If you understand all these graphs, it becomes easy for you. You know that the Lorentz curve, it measures inequalities. It's not done in grade 12. It's done in grade 11. You know that the indifference curve, even though we find it in grade 12 where term 2, which is your Macroeconomics, and we are doing paper 1 here, right? And then we have been done it alone in difference curve. We find it when we are doing the PPC. The curves that we have is this two in term 1, the Phillips and the Laffer curve. And then the Laffer curve does not have an inverse relationship. It looks like this. So this is not an inverse. The inverse relationship is this one. When this one is decreasing, this one is increasing. So your answer will be the Phillips curve. South Africa Defense Force are controlled by which government? Defense Force, the soldiers. Your answer will be central, which is a national government. It's not done in the local and district is the same thing. So definitely wrong. Then you go to the province, no, it's done in the national government. The owners of factors of production in a circular flow model is there. Who owns the factors of production? Is it the government? No. Businesses? No. But then the answer will be household. Household owns the factors of production, and we sell those factors of production for remuneration in the factor market. Labor, we get our salaries and wages, for land, rent, and so on. An economic integration that allows free movement of labor, capital, and money between member countries is also known as what? So all of this are economic integration or protocols, are agreements that we have with other countries when it comes to trade, right? So you have your free trade area. A free trade area, it means that we remove barriers. We have a free movement of buying and selling from each other. However, we still have boundaries. Yes, we are in a relationship, but we have boundaries. What kind of boundaries? It means that each country can decide to have a relationship with another country without the country that they are having relationship with having a problem. That is a kind of relationship they are having. Then you have your custom union. Your custom union now is a further relationship. It means that, yes, you are having a free trade. However, now there are no boundaries. It means if you are having relationship, you can't have relationship with other countries. We set the same restrictions. Once we're having a relationship, you can't have a relationship with other countries. We're setting restrictions. We are setting the same restriction. If we are all beefing with Zimbabwe, for example, we are having the same restrictions. And then you have the common market. The common market, they still have the same things as custom union, meaning they are allowing free trade, they are having the same restriction. However, now they're becoming more friendly with each other. They allow the factors of production to move freely. So this becomes our answer. It says what? An economic integration that allow free movement of labor capital, which is what? Which is your factors of production. And then the last relationship is the economic union. This one is intense. It's a serious relationship, this one. It means that they are now starting to share the same policies, they are sharing the same currencies, they are having the same central bank. It's not only about buying and selling each other for free without barriers. It means now they are having a very serious relationship. They are even sharing their monetary they are sharing their monetary bank, they are sharing their monetary currency, so they are sharing their monetary policies as well. So whatever that they are doing is common, right? And then 1.1.6, the production of goods in large quantities, normally done by countries in the northern hemisphere, is known as what? So production of large quantities. Is it a division of labor? No. Specialization? No. Batching? No. The answer is mass production. Large is for mass. Mass production is the correct answer there. Number 7, special development initiatives that attract infrastructure investment to the neglected areas are driven by the Department of. You do your ID here, we report our labor issues here. It's not this one, so your answer is your trade and industry. Is the one that deals with infrastructure and investment. You must think of trade and industry when you see investment. An economic indicator that relates to productivity is known as an economic indicator that relates to productivity is known as what? This has to do with inflation. This has to do with foreign exchange. This has to do with production and inflation as well. So your answer is this. Productivity has to do with the remuneration given to the worker. Remuneration given to the worker must match their productivity, right? So here are your answers for 1.1. So you can quickly mark yourself if you are not marking yourself when you're doing correction. Right, now let's move to 1.2. So 1.2, we are matching columns. Remember, the easiest way, I say start with column B, go to A. You save time. Number 1A, a transfer of ownership of businesses from the private sector to the public. Already you see a transfer of ownership. It means that something is nationalization or privatization. So you just need to see what are we buying from. So the ownership of businesses from private to the public, that is your nationalization. So if there's nationalization in this side, then you know that your answer will be what? Also, you come to the next one. You read here. Immediately by reading this statement, you already having an answer. Right? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do 1.2.1 to 1.2.8, then we look at the examination guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at the responses. We're gonna go straight to our responses that we have. Right, from your 1.2.1, your answer will be D. We are marking 1.2.2, your answer is C. 1.2.3 is E. 1.2.4, you have G there. 1.2.5 is A, it means that was nationalization, so it matches with A. 1.2.6 is H. 1.2.7 you have F. Then 1.2.8 is B, right? So those are your answers for matching the columns. So what was in A, it matches with B this way, right? So you are marking. If there's any issue, you raise your hand. Right, let's move to section B. We're looking at macroeconomics from question 2. So I've mentioned when we started that we have this easy questions that we have. 2.1.1, you are always naming or you are listing. The question says, name any 2 types of consumer goods. Right, I'll give you a minute to come up with the answers. 2 types of consumer goods that we have. You find them in the essay of markets. Right, if your answers is non-durable, semi-durable, durable, and services, then you are correct. Right, we are moving to the data respond question. So with this one, I'm going to give you some time to respond to it. You're only having the 3 first questions where I say those are your easy mark to get. So you'll be given 5 minutes to respond to this data response question. Then we look at the marking guideline. Your time will begin now. You start writing. Right, grade 12, thank you so much. Let's look at the answers that we have. The first question, 2.2.1, it says, identify an example of a leakage in the extract on the side. When you look at the extract on the side, the leakage that I can identify there, I see savings. There is savings somewhere here, which is your MPS. Name any one participant in a 2-sector economy. 2-sector economy, you are only having your household and businesses. If it's a 3-sector, then we add what? Right, if you've said government, you are correct. We are adding government. For 4-sector, what do we add? For 4-sector, we add foreign sector as our 4th sector in the economy. And it becomes an open economy. Briefly describe the term autonomous consumption. So we have 2 types of consumption, autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Right, autonomous consumption, the spending in the economy that takes place irrespective of the level of income. Level of expenditure that exists when income is 0. Autonomous consumption is when you spend without depending on income. Spending that is independent of income. You do not depend on income. Where do you get the money to spend if you're not depending on income? I want you to think about that. Where do you get the money to spend? Right, through savings, loans. Right, those are the types of autonomous consumption that we can speak of, that you are spending without having an income. Maybe you had savings or you took loan. And you have induced consumption. What is that? Right, induced consumption, that's your expenditure now that is depending on income. So for you to spend, you must get an income. Let's differentiate between autonomous and induced. Induced, it means that I go to work, and then when somebody's asking me for something and I say, I'll buy you month end, it means that when I get my income, I'm depending on my income to buy. And then autonomous consumption is when you decide to go to university, college next year, and your parent go withdraw money from the savings to spend on that registration. It is autonomous consumption because your parent is not depending on receiving income January 1st, but then your parent is doing what? Is withdrawing money from the savings, your education savings. Right, let's move to the next data response question. We have 3 questions as well here. Those are your easy questions. You have 5 minutes to respond to that. Then we look at the marking guideline and your answers. You may start writing grade 12. Right, your time is up. Let's look at your answers. The first question was saying identify the term in the extract that refers to expenditure on capital goods. So you look at the extract, what we have there is investment. So investment, it refers to expenditure on capital goods. Give one reason that limits the economic recovery of South Africa. Give any reason that limits economic recovery of South Africa. So for us to recover from the recession, what limits that? So you may have any other relevant response. However, this is what we have on our marking guideline. Social unrest, when people are striking, it takes our economy backwards because sometimes they are destroying the infrastructure. Corruption by the government officials, when they are misusing the government funds. Your load shedding, high electricity costs. Remember, electricity is one of the energies that we use for production. Increasing in petrol prices. When petrol price increase, we know that our CPI will also increase. High rate of unemployment, your poverty, lower consumer spending. So any other relevant answer that you may have, you can raise your hand and ask if it is correct for this question. Right, now let's move to 2.3.3. Briefly describe the term real GDP, the real gross domestic product. Remember, we have the nominal GDP and then the real GDP. What is the real GDP? The value of all final goods and services produced within a country at a constant price, meaning it is adjusted to inflation. Real GDP is the GDP that is adjusted to inflation. It's the one that we use in South Africa. In South Africa, we use the real GDP. Nominal GDP is not adjusted to inflation, meaning it's always higher than the real GDP. Why? Because it shows the current prices that include inflation. Real GDP shows constant prices that has been adjusted to inflation. Right, let's look at 2.4. Discuss the role of foreign exchange market in a secular flow. Foreign exchange market in a secular flow. What is the role of foreign exchange market in a secular flow? Right, you are given 8 minutes to write 4 full sentences. For this one, you are discussing what is the role of the foreign exchange market in a secular flow, meaning how does the foreign exchange play a role between other participants in a secular flow. Your time will begin now. You write 4 full sentences. Right, thank you, grade 12. So let's look at our marking guideline. So you were discussing the role of Forex in the secular flow. The foreign exchange market is made up of financial institutions such as commercial banks that buy and sell foreign currency. Remember, the foreign exchange market, this is where currencies are traded. Foreign exchange market facilitates international trade. So for us to have the international trade, we must change our currency when we want to buy in the international market. Household, firms, and government require foreign currency in order to purchase imports from foreign countries. Firms also use the foreign exchange market to exchange foreign currency that they receive in return for their exports. Foreign exchange markets determines exchange rate through the forces of demand and supply. Remember, in South Africa, the system that we're using is called a free floating system, meaning our currencies is determined by what? By the market force, which is your demand and supply, the forces of demand and supply. So that is your 8 mark. So you are marking yourself out of 8 as long as you've mentioned that this is where currencies is being traded, and then why do we trade this currency? To make international trade possible for imports, for exports. Right, we move into question 3. We have 3.1.1. Name any 2 industrial development strategies in South Africa. We are having 2 industrial development strategies. right? Think of those two strategies. There are two actions and there are two strategies. You find this in regional development. We have two strategies that we use and we have two actions, right? If you have IMS and NRDS, you are correct. The two strategies that we have is the National Research Development Strategy and the Integrated Manufacturing Strategy. Those are the strategies that you have. For your action plans, you have IPAP and you have NIPF. Those are your actions plan for regional development in South Africa. Let's look at 3.2 data response question. You are going to read the extract and then you are going to answer the three questions that will follow. You'll be given 5 minutes to respond to the question. Your time will begin now. Right, grade 12, let's look at our responses. Identify the community that is a major foreign exchange earner in South Africa. So you have read the extract and then the answer there is gold. Number 2, name any other BRICS member country apart from China. Right, so this is what we have. Remember, we have now BRICS plus. There are other countries that are part of BRICS. If you have written your Saudi Arabia and others that are part of BRICS, then you'll be correct. Briefly describe the term trade liberalization. Trade liberalization, when we are having relationship with other countries, we need to maintain it in a way that it stay healthy as possible, right? So the removal of restrictions such as tariff quotas on imports and exports to allow free flows of goods and services between countries. If we have discussed it as a good relationship, a good trade relationship between countries, then you are still correct. Anything that is relevant. Right, we have 3.3. There are 3 data response questions that are there from 3.3.1 to 3.3.3. So you're going to read the information below and then you respond to the questions. Right, we have 5 minutes to respond to the questions, then we look at your answers. Right, let's look at our answers. 3.3.1, identify an example of free housing provided by the government. RDP houses is there, there's RDP houses. Give any one social problem associated with informal settlement. So this one, any that you know, any social problem that is associated with informal settlement, this is what we have. With informal settlement, you find that is high rate of crime, there's poor service delivery, for example, your sewage, illness and diseases, there's pollution, it's overpopulated, there can be poverty as well in the informal settlement. So any other one that you think of that you think is correct, then you may ask if it is indeed correct. Briefly describe the term urbanization. The movement of people from the rural to the urban area, that is urbanization. Let's look at 3.4. Briefly discuss small business support program and skill support program as incentives for industrial development in South Africa. Where do you find this? You find this in your economic pursuits. These are the incentives given for industrial development under regional development. Right. So you are given 4 minutes to look up for these answers for skills, small business support program and the skill support program. Right. So you have to write 4 sentences, meaning 2 for small business program, and then 2 for skill support program. You are given 8 minutes. Right, let's look at our responses. For small business support program, this is what we have. This program is designed for small businesses with assets of 100 million or less. These incentives consist of a tax-free cash grant for investment in the industry. Remember, what are we talking about here? We're talking about those SEZ, IDZ, and STI. When you are there, you are given incentives. So SBSP is one of the incentives. So what do we get? Businesses that are having 100 million and less, they get the money. So you can also get what? Tax-free cash grants for investment in industry. Grants are available to new and expanding businesses. Grants are given for 3 years, after which the company is expected to become self-sustaining. Then skills support program. This is a tax-free cash grants for skills development. It aims to encourage greater investment in skills training to introduce new advanced skills to the SA labor force. A maximum of 50% of company training costs are covered over a period of 3 years. Right, so that is how you respond to the question of this incentive. So you have so many incentives that are there: custom free, you have foreign investment grant. You need to look at those incentives as well. Chances are it's easy to neglect them because they are at the end there of your regional development. Right, grade 12, we looked at your questions that we say we find are more easier. Your 1.1, 1.2, 2.2.1, your 3.3, 3.1.1, 3.2.1, and your 2.4 and 3.4 as well. Those ones that were mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, where we say that you get to score easy marks. If you look at today's lesson, you can see that the question that we have answered are more easier to answer. There's no question that really needed you to think. There were no questions that are asking you how effective, evaluate everything that you were asked. It was easy for you either to copy and paste from the textbook or to quickly name something. That is your easy questions. So you see that you can pass economics so easy if you are looking at these questions that are easy to score. Right, so our multiple choice, 16 marks, we've looked at that. Matching column, 8 marks, we've looked at that. Question 2 to 4, so we've looked at question 2 and 3, looking mostly on the easy questions. And remember, you have section C as well. Your section C, you need to plan for that prior to the examination. Right, thank you so much, grade 12, for joining in today's class. I'll see you next time. Keep well.